All right, so welcome back for another deep dive.
Right.
Today we're going to be going through
Right.
all sorts of stuff about UFOs,
Right.
which I guess now they're calling UAPs or
You
Unidentified Aerial or Anomalous
anomalous phenomena.
Phenomena, right?
Yeah.
So we've got tons of sources we're going to be pulling from. Like we've got declassified documents,
Oh, wow.
official testimonies from all sorts of people,
Huh.
pilot accounts.
Interesting.
I mean, you name it.
So it's like a deep dive into the government's like vault
Yeah.
of UAP secrets.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I think one of the things that we've already kind of seen, like just in preparing for this, is that it's just like this issue of UAPs is just so
Entwined. Yeah.
with like government agencies and secrecy and
Oh, absolutely.
like what the public knows and doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's just this big, like tangled web.
It's like a puzzle, and all the pieces don't quite fit together.
Right. Yeah. And I think like our mission today is to try and like put these puzzle pieces together and see what kind of picture we get when we, look at all this evidence that's sort of come out.
Right, to see what the U.S. government knows or thinks it knows about UAPs.
Cool.
So, I guess the question is like, where do we even begin?
Well, you almost have to start with Roswell, right?
Right. Okay.
1947.
Yeah.
Cold War tensions are high.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly there's this story about a crashed flying disc
Right.
in the desert in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And some sources even describe debris
Oh, really?
with strange markings and even a symbol of like a seal balancing a ball.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of like, it's the case that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't help that the government, like,
Right.
first said it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, then they changed their story to a secret project.
Right.
It's just like, why?
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, and it really kind of gets into this whole thing about like transparency or the lack thereof from the government, which kind of keeps coming up.
It's a recurring theme
Yeah.
in all of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I guess makes things like the 1952 Robertson panel so fascinating.
Okay, remind me about that one.
So the CIA, they got together a group of scientists
Okay.
to study the increasing number of reports they were getting about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is there's reason to believe that maybe some of the evidence was withheld from these scientists.
Oh.
So, who knows if that influenced their conclusion.
Oh, that's shady.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did they conclude?
That they were not a threat.
Okay.
And most of them were, misidentifications, hoaxes, things like that.
Right. But a lot of experts dispute that.
Right, they do.
Even some who are on, like, Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
Right. Which, speaking of it, that's another one where...
Chapter.
Yeah, another chapter in this whole saga
Mm-hmm.
where the government's handling of these investigations is just, like, widely criticized.
Yeah.
So Blue Book ran from, like, 1952 to 69.
69, yep.
And they analyzed thousands of sightings.
Thousands.
But they also concluded that there was no evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
Right. And that met with a lot of pushback.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, we've even got stuff in our sources like
Right.
J. Allen Hynek, who was Blue Book's scientific advisor.
Right.
He called the project a cover-up.
Yeah.
I mean, he straight up said that.
He did.
Yeah.
And that they dismissed too many cases
Right.
without proper investigation.
And this whole idea of, like, a cover-up is, like, amplified by the fact that there were all these, like, secret programs.
But the whisperers of these other programs.
That were going on, like, alongside Blue Book.
Yeah, like Sign, Grudge.
Right, like Black Book, Black Sky, even White Book.
It sounds like a spy movie.
Right, like, what is going on?
Right, exactly.
So these programs, if they even existed,
Right.
I mean, our sources say they did, but who knows?
Right, but according to the sources?
They were involved in everything from, like, recovering crashed UFOs to, like, developing technologies based on what they found. And some people even claim to have seen alien spacecraft being stored and analyzed.
In these top secret facilities.
Wait, hold on. So we're talking, like, actual spaceships.
Right.
Like, from another planet.
I mean, that's what some of these sources suggest.
I mean, it's one thing to, like, investigate sightings.
Yeah.
But recovering and, like, studying alien technology, that's like...
That's a whole other level.
It's next level.
Yeah, it is.
So what evidence is there for that?
Well, there are a lot of firsthand accounts
Okay.
from people some of whom had, high-level security clearances,
Okay.
who claimed to have witnessed this stuff. Um,
Like who?
well, one of the most well-known is Bob Lazar.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of him.
So he claims to have worked at a site called S4,
Mm-hmm.
which is near Area 51.
Right.
And he says he reverse-engineered alien technology there.
Oh, wow.
He even described encountering what he called Element 115,
Okay.
which at the time wasn't even on the periodic table.
Right. It wasn't even discovered yet.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
His story is
Controversial.
that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting that
Right.
Element 115 was actually synthesized later.
It was.
So does that
Lend credibility?
yeah, does it, or is that just a coincidence?
I mean, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily validate Lazar's entire story,
Right.
but it's still pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do we make of that? Is
Yeah.
there more to his story than we realize?
It's definitely a piece of the puzzle
Yeah, it is.
that needs more looking into.
For sure.
So it really makes you wonder about these programs, like
Mhm.
what they were trying to do.
Like,
Right.
if they were trying to reverse engineer this technology, I
Yeah.
mean, what kind of breakthroughs might they have made?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some of our sources talk about things like anti-gravity propulsion.
Like what?
Specifically the Bayfield-Brown effect
Okay.
and the M-drive concept.
So can you explain those in, simple terms?
Sure.
What is that?
So the Bayfield-Brown effect basically describes a type of thrust
Okay.
that's generated by a capacitor
Mm-hmm.
when you apply high voltage to it.
Okay.
And some people think that could be harnessed
Mm-hmm.
for propulsion, maybe even defying gravity.
Whoa. Okay.
And then the M-drive.
Yeah.
This one's a little more controversial.
Okay.
It's a theoretical system
Okay.
for propulsion that supposedly generates thrust without needing any propellant.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
So those concepts are, still being explored
Right.
in the public.
But potentially in these covert programs as well.
Right.
Like, what happens if that becomes a reality?
Well, the implications are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a world with anti-gravity technology.
Right.
It could revolutionize everything.
Transportation, energy,
Yeah, space travel.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much every aspect of life.
But it could also be pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if it falls into the wrong hands?
Exactly. The wrong hands. I mean, that could be devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got cover-ups and secret programs and whispers of recovered alien technology. And now we're talking about anti-gravity.
Right.
This is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
What I think is just really crazy is just the amount of secrecy
Right.
from the government.
Yeah.
How do we even know what to believe?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do we separate fact from fiction?
Right.
How do we approach all of this with a critical eye and not get lost in all the speculation and conspiracy theories?
It's where do you even begin to untangle all this?
Right.
So I guess that's what we're going to try and do.
That's what we're going to do
Yeah.
as we go further down this rabbit hole
Right.
into the world of UAPs.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets pretty weird.
Yeah, this is where it starts to feel like a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Not necessarily a fun one either.
No, not necessarily.
They're talking about, UAPs appearing over nuclear missile silos,
Mm-hmm.
even, claims that they interfered with the launch systems.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff.
That's some scary stuff.
It is.
One of the incidents that really stands out from our sources is this one in 1967 at Malmstrom Air Force Base.
Right.
10 nuclear ICBMs were, disabled.
Yeah, rendered inoperable.
Well, this glowing red orb
Uh-huh.
was seen, hovering over the facility.
Yeah, that's a pretty chilling thought.
10 ICBMs at the same time.
Mhm.
What kind of technology
That's the question, isn't it?
could even do that?
What could even be capable of that?
And then, what does that tell us about, whoever's behind this?
Yeah, what are their intentions, right?
Yeah.
What are they trying to do?
It really makes you question the level of technology we could be dealing with here.
Right.
And Malmstrom isn't the only one.
Really?
Oh, no, there are other accounts.
Okay.
We've got a guy named Robert C. Jameson,
Okay.
former USAF missile targeting officer.
Okay.
And he says he saw UAPs neutralizing missiles
Oh, wow.
at both U.S. and Russian bases.
So it's not just the U.S. then?
Apparently not.
So we're talking global phenomenon,
It seems that way.
potentially impacting the entire world's nuclear arsenal.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
That's
It's a scary thought.
That's terrifying.
It is.
I mean, who's behind this?
Yeah, it really throws a wrench into the whole question of, like, what are we dealing with here?
Right.
Are these advanced drones from another country?
Like some people think?
Or is it something, like, completely different?
Or is it something else entirely?
Something we don't even understand.
Yeah, something beyond our comprehension.
Okay, so on one hand, you've got the possibility that it's, like, a terrestrial explanation.
Right, like another country with super advanced technology.
Which is already, like, bad enough.
Yeah, that's scary enough on its own.
But then there's the other possibility.
The possibility that it's...
Well, it's aliens.
extraterrestrial. Like, it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can mess with nuclear weapons...
Right.
That challenges everything we know about physics and technology.
Yeah.
And our place in the universe.
It kind of makes you think, like, what are their intentions then?
Right. If it is extraterrestrial.
Yeah, if it is.
Like, are they just watching us?
Right.
Or are they actively, like, intervening?
Trying to stop something bad from happening.
Yeah, like maybe they're trying to prevent a nuclear war.
I mean, who knows?
We don't know.
That's just...
It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah.
We just don't have the answers.
It just makes it even more, like...
More complex.
Yeah, more complicated and more confusing.
Right, it's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
So speaking of complex systems, like
Right.
what about the intelligence community?
Yeah, they play a huge role in all of this.
Right, because we've got
the CIA, the DIA.
the NSA, the Navy.
Right. Everybody's involved.
But are they, like, working together?
Yeah, are they sharing information?
Or are they just all doing their own thing?
Yeah, are they competing with each other?
It seems like it's probably a little bit of both.
I think so.
Based on our sources?
Yeah, there are definitely claims of, like, rivalries.
Really?
Different agendas.
Okay.
Even disinformation campaigns.
Wait, hold on. Disinformation. Like, governments putting out fake news about UFOs.
Well, some people believe so.
Like, why would they do that? Well, according to one theory, it's all about controlling the narrative.
Okay.
Like, they want to see how the public reacts.
Okay.
And how much they can influence what people believe.
So who's putting this theory forward?
A guy named Richard C. Doty
Okay.
is a former AFOSI counterintelligence officer.
Okay.
And he says that they were planting false information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So if that's true, then how are we supposed to know what's real?
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes it even harder to separate fact from fiction.
So we've got to be extra careful
We do. We have to be very critical.
about the information we come across.
Yeah, scrutinize everything.
Yeah.
Look for corroboration.
Makes you wonder what else is out there
Right. What else are they hiding?
in those classified files.
What else is buried in those documents that we don't even know about?
That could be shaping the narrative.
Right. Behind the scenes.
Yeah, and speaking of classified information,
Yeah.
what about Majestic 12?
Majestic 12.
This, like, shadowy group
The mysterious cabal.
that supposedly coordinates all UAP activity.
At the highest levels of government.
Like, are they real?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Is it real or is it just a story?
It's like one of the biggest debates in UFO lore.
It is. It's a classic conspiracy theory.
Our sources mention the FBI even has a file on Majestic 12,
Oh, really?
but it's classified as espionage,
Espionage.
and it's not available to the public.
That's a little suspicious, don't you think?
It's very suspicious.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Makes people wonder if there's something they're trying to hide.
And then the way these, like, alleged Majestic 12 documents were leaked,
Right. How did they get out?
they were, like, given to UFO researchers.
Not to the media?
Not to Congress.
What's to these researchers?
It's weird.
It's very strange.
So we've got, like, secret programs,
Mhm.
disinformation campaigns,
Yeah.
maybe this shadowy group pulling the strings.
Yeah, it's like we stepped into a spy novel.
Yeah, it's like, what is real anymore?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's like, where does reality end and fiction begin?
It's hard to tell sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's just assume for a second that some of this stuff is true.
Right.
Like, where does that leave us?
Well, it's a pretty unsettling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the implications of all this secrecy?
Yeah, what does it all mean?
Well, some people believe that UAP research has been privatized.
Privatized.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, it's been shifted away from government agencies
Okay.
and into the hands of private companies.
Like what kind of companies?
Well, you know, big names like Lockheed Martin,
Oh, wow.
Boeing, Bigelow Aerospace, they've all been linked to this stuff.
So what's their interest in UFOs?
Well, I think it comes down to technology.
Okay.
If they could get their hands on, you know,
Yeah.
recovered alien tech,
Right.
Think about the breakthroughs they could make.
Like in what areas? I mean, propulsion, material science, energy.
So we're talking like a whole new level of technology.
Oh, yeah, it would be revolutionary.
Well, wouldn't the government want to control that?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But that's the question, isn't it?
Like, are these companies just doing whatever they want?
Yeah, are they operating within the law?
Or are they just, like, rogue?
Or are they off the books completely?
Are they funded by, like...
Yeah, unauthorized spending?
Black budgets and stuff?
Could be. That's,
It's a scary thought.
That's a little concerning.
It is.
If they're not accountable to anyone.
Right. Who's watching them?
Yeah.
Who's making sure they're not doing anything dangerous?
And what if they're using this technology for something bad?
Well, that's the risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
We just don't know.
It's like opening a Pandora's box.
Right. We could unleash something we can't control.
Yeah, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
It is. It's the power of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
It sparks our curiosity and our fears. It's a reminder that we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
Of this whole UAP thing.
Exactly. There's so much more to uncover.
Okay, so we've been through a lot.
We have.
Like, a lot.
It's been quite the journey.
Government secrecy, cover-ups, the possibility of, like, technology that we can't even imagine.
Right. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things lately is how open the government's been.
Yeah.
About UAPs.
It does seem like they're actually acknowledging them now.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
Instead of just denying everything.
Right, from denial to, like, curiosity.
Yeah.
It's a welcome change.
So what do you think caused that shift?
I think it's a few things.
Okay.
That New York Times article in 2017 about the Pentagon's ATIP program was huge.
Right, ATIP, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, a dedicated Pentagon program.
Led by Luis Elizondo.
Investigating UAPs.
Who's become a major voice in the field since then.
It really did make the whole topic seem more credible.
It did. It gave it legitimacy.
And then they released those videos.
Oh, yeah, the videos.
Like the Tic Tac one.
Yeah, that was a game changer.
It's like, how do you explain that?
Exactly. Those maneuvers.
Defy physics.
It really captured the public's attention.
It did.
And it kind of forced the government's hand.
Yeah, they had to take it seriously.
They couldn't just ignore it anymore.
Which led to those congressional hearings.
Right, the hearing.
I remember watching those.
Yeah.
Like live on TV.
It was pretty amazing.
Lawmakers talking about UFOs for the first time in, like, forever.
It felt historic.
Yeah, it did.
Like a turning point.
And then they created that
AOIMSG,
right? Which is supposed to, like...
It's supposed to improve data collection.
Okay.
Analysis, reporting.
So is that the answer then?
I mean, is AOIMSG going to solve the mystery?
Yeah, are they going to figure it all out?
I don't know. It's too early to tell.
It's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
More structured, more transparent.
But they're still facing challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like what?
Well, a lot of the data is still classified.
Right.
So how can they do their job properly if they don't have access to all the information?
That seems kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, it does a bit.
Having a group to investigate UAPs but not giving them all the information?
It's a bit of a contradiction.
So what are they doing about that?
Well, some members of Congress are pushing for more transparency from the intelligence community.
Good.
They're saying that all the secrecy is just creating more suspicion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they want more information declassified.
And released to the public.
Exactly.
I think most people would agree with that.
I think so too.
Especially if these UAPs are a threat.
Right. We need to know what we're dealing with.
But then there's the argument about national security.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin.
Like, what if releasing certain information puts us at risk? It's a valid concern.
So how do we balance those two things?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
The public's right to know versus national security.
Right.
It's finding that middle ground.
Where you can be transparent.
Without compromising sensitive information.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
It is.
But we have to figure it out.
Yeah, we can't just sweep it under the rug.
Because the lack of transparency just leads to more conspiracy theories.
Absolutely, it breeds distrust.
People need to know what's going on.
Especially if it affects their safety.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
I think so.
So I guess it's just going to take time.
It will. Transparency is a process.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No, it takes time to build trust.
And to declassify things properly.
Exactly.
But it's frustrating.
I know, I get it.
We want answers.
We all do.
And it just feels like it's taking forever.
It's like watching a puzzle being put together.
One tiny piece at a time.
Yeah, slow going.
But I guess that's just how it has to be.
I think so.
So any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, I would say...
As we wrap up this deep dive.
Stay curious.
Okay.
Keep exploring.
Yeah.
and never stop questioning.
Because there's still so much we don't know.
The world of UAPs is full of mysteries.
Yeah.
And maybe one day we'll have the answers.
Maybe.
But until then, the search continues.
That's a good note to end on.
It is, isn't it?
It's a thrilling search.
It is.
Even if we don't have all the answers.
Yeah, the journey itself is pretty amazing.
All right, well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the world of UAPs.
Thanks for having me.
And keep looking up.
Keep those eyes on the skies.
And keep those critical thinking caps on.
Always.